Gifts of development are human way, the human way. Isn't it lovely that God's basically saying to us here, if you want to develop without me, you can do it this way. You don't need me at all. Like, how many parents would do that? You do it my way or it's the highway, right? Isn't it? But no, God said, no, I'm okay with you developing it your way, that's all right. You're allowed to do that. I'll let you do that. I'll make some laws so that you can do that. It's wonderful, isn't it? Law of compensation, one of those laws. Law of attraction, another law. All a lot of them created to help you do it your way. I did it my way. Of course, the second way is God's way. Completely different way. And you don't have to do it. You're crazy if you don't do it, but you don't have to. Right. On earth, they think you're crazy if you do it. It's real weird on earth, isn't it? Things are. But even if you look at those two gifts of development, one gift is about, if you want to be self-reliant, here you are. Be self-reliant. You can still become happy being self-reliant. You can still become self-sufficient being self-reliant. You can be self-responsible being self-reliant. You can still do those things. You just won't experience the extreme bliss that comes from doing it God's way. If you want to do it your way, well, that's your choice. Yeah, it's just amazing how good that is, isn't it? How good that is. Like, you think about, again, cast your mind back to the average parent. Man, you're not given a choice to do it any other way than their way, generally, are you? Has to be within the confines and their laws and their ideas and their concepts and their errors and their facade. It has to all be within that to get their approval. But God's okay, you can do it your own way. You can even change ways. Isn't that fantastic? It's like, none of this concept of like a lot of Christianity, which is, you do it the wrong way, you're in hell forever, getting tormented forever. Right, what kind of parent does that sound like? It's a bit like my parents, maybe. Torment me forever for doing it not their way, but God's not like that. You can do a whole heap of really bad things from God's perspective, end up in the depths of hell, and then decide to change your mind. Isn't that amazing? I just think that's amazing. Just amazing that God does that, allows us to do that, to change our mind anytime we want. Like, I don't know about you, but I've been in situations where people around me just, you change your mind, and what do you get? Oh, God. You get attacked. Like even me sharing with you new truths this year, right, that you've not heard before, people will criticise. Why didn't he talk about that before? Right? And I sort of go, well, what if I couldn't remember it before? So I'm not allowed to not remember now. But God says, no, you're allowed to not remember. You're allowed to make mistakes. You're allowed to experiment, right? And if you do it with a pure motive, there's hardly any penalties at all. A few physical ones maybe, just where you've broken the law here and there, but not any spiritual ones if you've done it with the right motive to learn and to grow in love. Like, everything done with the right motive is always rewarded. Isn't that great? It's like you imagine going home to mum and dad when you're going to school and going, they say, how are your grades? And you said, I got 5 U's, five failures. You imagine what mum and dad would do. And God's going, yeah, it's okay. You can have 10 failures, 100 failures. That's okay with me. Isn't that doesn't that help you a bit to relax a bit with this thing? To relax a bit with the process and treat it as a lifelong thing? And when I say relax a bit, it causes me to be relaxed about making mistakes. It doesn't cause me to relax about doing it because I just want to do it. I want to get it done. But if I make a mistake, I don't get all hung up about it, and God never punishes me for it. Right? I get hammered by people whenever I make a mistake. But that's because of their sin, isn't it? God doesn't hammer you because of your mistakes. And particularly if the mistakes were unknown and you were trying to find out about something with the right motivation. So there you go. There's God's gifts to develop my loving self. So can you see that God has actually designed a universe where your development was paramount in God's mind? Can you see that? So God's intention was that you weren't developed the instant you came into existence. So stop punishing yourself for not being developed. Because God's intention was for you to not be developed at the beginning. God's intention was you just be a blank slate and then you determine your own development. Isn't that wonderful too? You can determine how fast you develop, in what way you want to develop, and so forth. You're allowed to determine all of that as well. Isn't that a fantastic idea? So you imagine going along to school, and instead of getting a curriculum and you have to choose between 5 or 6 subjects or whatever, you go along to school and they say, what do you want to do? And you go, I'd like to go into space, probably. They go, okay, what can we teach you? You tell us what you need to learn to go into space. So you develop up a curriculum and you have to learn self-sufficiency, don't you? You have to learn how to survive in a vacuumless atmosphere with no oxygen. You have to create a lot of systems for you to do all of those kind of things. They help you do the whole thing. Then they help you build the spaceship and off you go. Where everybody does exactly what their desires are. Imagine a world like that. And a lot of people say we'd use too many resources. Well, no, because none of our desires would be out of harmony with love, so we wouldn't do that. We would refuse to do that. We'd try to come up with systems that were in harmony with love as a part of that educational process. But you imagine a school like that. Wouldn't it be great to have a school like you're there, you're 5 years old, you decide you want to go to school, and there's no school. So you go along, and the first thing they ask you is to design the school and to build it. So by the time you're 7 or 8, you're a builder. So you've already got that out of the way. And then they ask you what you're going to learn next. And after you've designed and built the school, now you've got a place to learn. So then they ask you what you want to learn next, and off you go. You choose what you want to learn next, and they educate you in that particular area. That's what God's doing. Can you see it's all driven by will, desire, isn't it? Our will. Yeah. Very clever. Very clever. Now, I'm always saying God's clever, but that's an understatement, isn't it? Very, very much an understatement.